Maybe Daphne is not the diamond of the season after all. Yours, Lady Whistledown. Shh. Hi there and welcome to my channel Reviews with Jules. Today I'm going to be reviewing Netflix's Bridgerton. So, shall we get into it? I think we shall. Bridgerton is a period drama. There are 8 episodes of 60 minutes and it's available on Netflix. If you like my videos, then consider subscribing and make sure you wait till the end because I have some really terrific news on Bridgerton. Set in Georgian times, Bridgerton follows a group of young women, also known as debutantes, in their season. Now basically what this means is that young women are coming of age and they start to attend balls and parties in order to find their future husband. The series focuses more solely on the Bridgerton family and more specifically Daphne, who is the youngest female, and it is her season. She is also known as the diamond of the season, and that basically means that she is the one to look out for. Whilst at a party, Daphne bumps into the Duke, also known as Simon Hastings. Now he actually has a friendship with Daphne's brother, so they seem to know each other, and even though there was a bit of a sort of rude meeting between Daphne and Hastings, they start to really get along. Now the problem is that he has sworn on his father's deathbed that he will not marry because he does not want to continue the line of heirs because he despises his father, unlike Daphne, who is very much in the market to get married. Throughout the series there is also Lady Whistledown, who is the gossip bearer of them all. She is the person who writes this newspaper article with all the gossip in it, and what she seems to say goes. So when she says that Daphne might not be the diamond of the season that had once been thought of, then Daphne thinks, what can I do to get back on top of my game and have loads of male suitors? Well, that is when herself and Hastings devise a plan to sort of pretend that they're sort of getting together to make men jealous and start falling in love with her. But then that plan starts to go a little bit awry when they actually end up falling in love with one another. The one thing that I absolutely loved about the series was the music, because they started playing this classical music and I thought, this is nice, and then I started sort of humming along to it, realising that I knew the tune, and then realised it was Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. I thought it was such an ingenious thing to have this sort of classical music with a modern twist, because it put that sense of familiarity in it, because sometimes period dramas can sometimes feel quite stale or quite classical and quite rigid, but putting these modern songs in really gave a unique edge. When it usually comes to period dramas, I always feel that the two leads are really quite rigid and square, and there's something where you just want to shake them, and this was great because this was nothing like that. The two leads were really harmonious, they worked really well together, there was a certain energy about them that felt really relatable, and they were quite punchy characters. They weren't rigid, they weren't square, you know, there was something really lovely about them and the chemistry between them was fab. I loved the aesthetic, it was so beautiful, it was Georgian times, and I wouldn't say that's not been really done before, but there was a certain element of modern twist that was brought to it, sort of like the David Copperfield film that came out a few years ago. There was a certain vibrance and certain edge to it, having a bit of dark humour, and there was a bit of comedy in there alongside the period drama, which makes it a little bit more unique and more watchable, to be honest, in my opinion. My favourite character and performance out of the whole entire season was Eloise, who is played by Claudia Jessie. I thought that her tone and her quality of voice was just really beautiful. I just really kind of loved it, that sort of husky vibe, I really liked it. But also that the character was a bit more of a feminist. She had some political stances, you know, and I really loved seeing that within this period drama, and I just really loved her character arc. An element that I commended the series on was the diversity. They had a mixed race queen, which I thought was really great, and actually it is historically accurate, as it was thought that she was the first sort of black mixed-raced queen that helped rule England. I also really enjoyed the incorporation of political statements. You know, there was a question about LGBTQIA+ in there as well, with one of the characters being gay. I really love the fact that it was sort of like feminism and these women being like, well, maybe I don't want to marry, and then what? And other men refusing to marry as well, which I think was a really interesting element, because normally period dramas are all about marriage. And having said that, I do think that is something that also let the series down. Maybe if they, you know, emphasise some of the other B-line storylines, or maybe emphasise some of the other characters, then that maybe would have intermingled a little bit more, but it did feel like quite on one tone with that. I felt that in some cases the series felt really audience pleasing. You know, some of the characters' stories got summed up rather quickly right towards the end of the series, which I never really like, because then have a second series and then progress the storylines and see where those character arcs can go. They reveal Lady Whistledown right at the end of the series, and I was so disappointed, because I really wanted that to carry on for future series, to be like, oh, who is it, who is it? But the other thing is when it was revealed, it was quite predictable who it was. Me and my mum had already guessed who it was, but then there was this kind of red herrings and questions about other people that made it a little bit more interesting. And considering they were summing up loads of character stories and these little hidden elements, I was kind of hoping that they would have left some parts of the series open for mystery and potential next series, but they didn't. An interesting modern mix on the period genre classic, which is why I gave Bridgerton 4 Jules. Big news alert! So Bridgerton has already been recommissioned for another series. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't have to wait long until the next series. So if you have watched this one, then drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts, because I'd love to hear them. And I'll see you next time. See ya!